First of all, I would like to acknowledge and thank the organizers of this very important conference and providing us the opportunity to interact and speak on this very important issue, which is currently becoming a nuclear flashpoint for the world. Now, as our topic is about the history of Kashmir, there are many people who are very well aware of the history of Kashmir. For those who are not, I would like to tell you briefly about the history of the Kashmir, because the oppression of the Kashmiri people didn't start in 1947. It started way in the past, and since 1589, Kashmir is never ruled by the Kashmiris. So you can just imagine that the state of the Kashmiri mind, that for over centuries, they were never given an opportunity to rule themselves, which is a fundamental right of any nation. And after the Mughal Empire, there was a Mughal Empire you are very well aware of. From 1753 to 1819, Kashmir was ruled by the Afghans. And that was a very, very difficult time for the Kashmiri people, as Afghans were making Kashmiris as slaves and sending them back to Kabul. And they were also imposing a very heavy taxes, because Kashmir is known for shawl weavers, and they were imposing a very heavy taxes. So the Kashmiris had to face a lot of problems. After 1819, Kashmir, from 1819 to 1846, Kashmir was ruled by Sikhs. And it's been written in the history that they treated Kashmiris little better than a cattle. And at that time, if somebody is murdered, the killer has to pay 16 rupees. At that time, 4 rupees will go to the family of a Hindu, if Hindu is murdered. And 2 rupees will go to the family of the Muslim Kashmiris, if a Muslim Kashmiri is murdered. So you can just imagine that how bitter, how difficult the life of the Kashmiri people was in their very homeland. And once India was occupied by the East India Company, they sold Kashmir to Dogras by considering it as a commodity, not as a homeland to millions of the people. So Dogra rule was the worst rule, and at that time, the Kashmiris had to face, again, a lot of agony, and they had to pay a very heavy taxes, and especially the shawl weavers and the silk industry, so they imposed a very, very heavy taxes. So this is briefly about the history. I didn't go into the detail because there are many historians. I'm not an historian, but it's just briefly giving you a brief of the history of the Kashmiri people. So it's a centuries-old issue, and the Kashmiri people are still struggling for their right of self-determination. Now, coming to after 1946, this issue emerged again, and it was the India who went to United Nations, and we have been discussing about what happened in 1947 and 48, and the United Nations resolutions about the right of self-determination. I would like to talk about something different. as I am a Vice Chancellor of the university, I would like to appraise you about the status of the education in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. There are 12 universities against a population of about 10 million. So it comes to 12 per 10 million. On the contrary, India has around 900 universities. So in rest of the India, the number of university per 10 million is around 90. And in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, the number of the universities is only 12. And the ranking, if we look at the ranking of the universities, even in India, nothing is being invested in the universities or higher education sector in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And now, for the last 108 days, the universities are closed. All schools are closed. So we are talking about the wastage of their time, of 1 year of their life. So of millions of students who have to go to the schools or colleges or the universities. So this is a very important issue that the curfew has been imposed. We are talking about different impacts, effects of this curfew and all this blockade of the internet services. But we have to discuss about the impact of this embargo on the education, on the youth of that region, inclusive of all the people who live in that region. So I would, like I said, that this is a historic issue which started centuries ago, and the Kashmiris were never given a right. Now, on the 5th of August, India revoked Article 370. And I always think that there is always an opportunity in crisis. They themselves have highlighted this issue. And we request the international community to look into this crisis. It's not a regional crisis. It's a humanitarian issue. It's a world issue. And we all have to sit down and discuss that what can be possibly done to resolve this issue. And at the end, I would like to suggest a few things that what is the way forward? Kashmir must be considered as an humanitarian crisis, not a regional or territorial dispute alone. Beyond the state, the crisis needs a reorientation of societal dialogue in the international society. State and public diplomacy must go side by side in search of neutral avenues of conflict resolution and crisis management. Right to self-determination is a reflection of fundamental human rights in the Charter of United Nations, which is the long-awaited right of the Kashmiri people. International media forums need to pressurize their respective governments to diplomatically engage the Indian government to open the valley for the international community. And this must be done very soon. I'm sure that we are very, very thankful to the people of Turkey, to the Turkish government, of think tanks, both the think tanks from Lahore and from Turkey, for bringing this issue to Ankara. And we are very hopeful that we will sit down and make some important recommendations which will be helpful to resolve this problem the way it should be resolved, according to the wish and wills of the Kashmiri people. As Lord Nazir was saying, that it's not only the by a dialogue, we need to think very seriously the language which they understand. We have to build a pressure on, this is not an Hindu-Muslim conflict, not at all. Right? As the Honorable Professor said, it's not an Hindu-Muslim conflict. It is a conflict of one party, of one individual. And we as an international community must put a pressure and talk to them the language which they understand. I thank you very much.